My family kicked me out of our group chat after I said no to giving money to my sisters. Then, they actually tried to steal $80,000 using my name. So, I taught them a lesson. The message popped up in our family chat. Yeah, a group chat with my parents, my aunt, and uncle, though my uncle rarely spoke. This time, he stayed silent, and honestly, the quiet said it all. The note hit me hard. We've talked it over, and we think it's best if you take a step back from the family for now. Vanessa needs space. We all do. Right under that, my aunt dropped a thumbs up emoji. No phone call. No explanation. Just that. I stared at my phone for a minute before typing back. Understood. I'll respect that and step away from the family stuff too. I didn't wait for a reply. That night, I logged into the joint bank account I'd been managing quietly for 5 years. This was the account that paid for Mom's insulin, helped Dad refinance their second mortgage, and kept Vanessa's car running when her paychecks were late. I stopped my automatic deposits and then shut the account down. Almost immediately, my phone started buzzing nonstop. By morning, there were 89 missed calls. Dad left a voicemail last, his voice shaky, scared, and angry. What happened? The bank flagged everything. Are you okay? Why would you do this? I replied with just one sentence. I respect your decision. That was before they realized just how much I had been doing quietly behind the scenes. To really get why they felt betrayed, you have to know the backstory. 5 years ago, Vanessa was in the hospital for the second time. Dad called me crying from a Walgreens parking lot. She's not going to make it, he said. They won't admit her without insurance. We're out of money. That night, I emptied my savings and paid for her rehab myself. Vanessa seemed stable for a while. Everyone called it a miracle, but no one ever thanked me or even mentioned that I made it happen. No one asked if I was okay there. But it didn't stop there. When Mom was diagnosed with diabetes, I started paying for her meds. Dad's hours were cut at work. Vanessa's ups and downs kept coming. Every time she hit a rough patch, they came to me quietly, asking for help. At first, it was small stuff. $300 here and there for a month. Then they asked me to set up something like a family emergency fund. I was 27, single, working 80-hour weeks in finance. It made sense to me. I could afford it, so I did it. I created a family fund in my name, paid for Mom's prescriptions, Vanessa's therapy co-pays, and even the phone bills when they fell behind. They gave me full access to all their accounts, passwords, balances, everything. Not because they trusted me, but because they didn't want to deal with it themselves. They called me the responsible one. What they really meant was the easiest option. My life turned into a long list of quiet sacrifices. Meanwhile, Vanessa kept falling apart. In 2020, she got a DUI, and I paid for her lawyer. She moved in with a guy named Eric, not abusive, but not good either. When she left him in the middle of the night, I sent her enough money through Venmo for a hotel and groceries. No one asked where that money came from. No one saw the spreadsheets I made to track my own finances just to stay afloat. They didn't notice when I moved to a cheaper apartment, skipped vacations, and ate oatmeal for dinner way too often because I had to. I was the buffer between them and disaster, and that buffer finally broke. For a while, I was okay with it, until Christmas 2 years ago. Vanessa threw a fit because I refused to buy her new tires right after paying her rent. She told my parents I was making her feel judged. That night Dad messaged me. Try to be a little more understanding. She's in recovery. You don't know how hard that is. Something inside me snapped. Not loudly, but something cracked. I didn't answer. Instead, I started keeping track of everything. Every dollar I gave, every bill I paid, every excuse they made. I backed it all up, emailed myself the statements, took screenshots. Not to hide it from them, yet, but to remind myself I wasn't imagining the toll. Then last month, things blew up. Vanessa messaged the family chat. "Hey, I know money's tight, but can the fund cover a yoga retreat in Arizona? It's for my mental health." $3,200 for a yoga retreat. I said nothing. I waited to see what they'd say. "My dad, the same man who helped me get out of debt twice last year," replied. "Sounds like something you really need. Let's see what we can do." Mom sent a heart emoji. That's when I realized this wasn't just about using me. They assumed the fund was theirs, and I was just the quiet donor. Years passed, and gratitude turned into entitlement. But the rail bomb dropped 2 nights before that message. We had a monthly family video call, usually a Vanessa therapy session with me acting as the invisible ATM. I tried to talk about my promotion to director at work, with a big raise and more responsibility. Dad cut me off mid-sentence. "Sorry, can we go back to Vanessa's housing? She doesn't feel safe where she is now." They wanted to move her somewhere better, with my help, of course. I didn't agree or argue. I just said calmly, "Maybe it's time someone else stepped up." Silence. Cold, angry silence. Then came the message 2 days later. "We think it's best if you step away for now." My Aunt Evelyn's thumbs up felt like a punch. They thought they were shutting me out. They had no clue they were cutting off the last thing holding their finances together. I was the quiet foundation beneath their lives. When I stopped, everything fell apart. The fallout hit within 36 hours. First came overdraft notices. Then the pharmacist called me about Mom's meds. Vanessa, the one who wanted space, left a voicemail that started quiet and ended in a scream. "Why would you do this? You knew I needed that payment." By Sunday morning, the text kept coming. Dad sent a flood of voice messages like a man breaking down. They treated me like I didn't belong. The mortgage bounced. "I thought you handled the insurance. The car has no insurance now. What did you do to the utilities account? The bank locked our checking account. They saw too many red flags. You need to fix this. Fix this." Like I'd wrecked everything. Like I hadn't already stepped back just like they asked. The problem wasn't that I stopped helping. They had no idea how much I was holding together behind the scenes. Then came the family Zoom call. My cousin Emily set it up and acted like it was just a chat. But as soon as I joined, their faces lined up in neat squares like a courtroom. Mom's lips were so tight they looked pale. Dad paced. Vanessa cried. It felt rehearsed. And Evelyn sat there in her scarf and pearls, looking smug, like we were on trial. "Why did you do this to us?" Vanessa's voice shook. "You just abandoned us after everything I've done." I answered. "You mean after I paid your rent, funded your rehab, and said no to your yoga retreat? That's not fair," she said. "Fair?" I asked. "You want fair? For 5 years, I've covered your financial messes like a forensic cleaner. I paid overdrafts, bailed you out while you posted quotes about healing and alignment. And the moment I hesitate, you kick me out like I'm nothing." Mom finally spoke. "It wasn't exile. We were giving you space." "No, it wasn't." I cut in. "You sided with Vanessa again, like always. You just found a nicer way to tell me to disappear." "So I did." Dad crossed his arms. "You didn't have to close the fund." "I didn't close it. I shut down the account in my name, with my money managed by me. The family fund was never a trust, it was a leash." His face turned red. "We trusted you." "No," I said. "You used me." Then I opened the spreadsheet I kept. Rows and rows of payments, dates, amounts, every penny accounted for. Rent, meds, utilities, Vanessa's retreat I almost paid for, and Evelyn's emergency dental visit, even Uber rides for Mom at 2 a.m. during panic attacks. Wow! Emily whispered. Who even keeps all this? Evelyn sneered. Someone who knew you'd gaslight him into thinking he made it up. I looked at the screen and clicked the final tab, a running total. $87,421.13. No one said a word. Dad stepped back from the camera like he'd been slapped. You kept track of us? Mom asked, shocked. No, I said. I survived you. Vanessa lunged at the screen like a tantruming toddler. You're just bitter. You always wanted a gold star for being a good son. You want applause for acting like an adult. No, I said quietly. I want boundaries. I'm done being your financial safety net. That's rich, Evelyn muttered. You think money's all that matters? No, I replied. But it's the only thing you ever came to me for. I closed the spreadsheet, looked into the camera, and dropped the final bomb. I already contacted the bank. All joint authorizations are removed. My name is off every account. The credit cards are closed. The automatic payments for utilities are cancelled. You'll need to re-enroll the insurance yourselves. You wanted me to step away. This is what that looks like. Mom gasped. Dad went pale. Vanessa looked like she'd been shot. Emily leaned back in disbelief. I wasn't done yet. I also talked to a lawyer. I added, You'll get papers soon. I'm cutting all legal ties to the family fund that was never formalized, just in case someone tries to use my credit or open accounts in my name. You're overreacting, Vanessa yelled. You're cutting us off. I'm protecting myself, I said. I'm not your backup plan anymore. Not your free ride. Dad looked broken but said nothing. Mom quietly cried. Vanessa slammed something as she stormed off. Evelyn ended the call without a word. I sat back, heart racing, hands shaking. For the first time in years, I wasn't scared of what might happen next because I had finally dropped the weight I'd carried too long. The silence after the call was almost eerie. My phone didn't ring with, "Hey, quick favor," or guilt-ridden voicemails. Vanessa didn't post passive-aggressive messages about family betrayal. It was like I vanished. At first, I thought maybe they'd finally learn to stand on their own. I should have known better. 10 days later, I got an email from an unknown address. It said, "You ruined everything." Attached were bills. Vanessa had an eviction notice. The power company was threatening to cut the electricity, and a credit card application was denied with my name as a former co-signer. They were falling apart fast. People who rely on you don't go down quietly. They crash and blame you for the fall. That same week, Mom showed up at my office during a meeting. My assistant told me, "There's a woman here. Says she's your mother. Won't leave." I found her pale and shaking in the lobby, holding an envelope full of papers. "I don't know where else to go," she said, voice rough. "Your dad's sleeping on the couch. Vanessa hasn't left her room in 3 days. The landlord's changing the locks next week." I didn't respond, so she pushed harder. "I raised you," she said, suddenly angry. "I gave you life, and this is how you repay us?" I laughed. Not a loud laugh, hollow, like air leaking from a broken pipe. "You gave me life," I said, "then spent 30 years making me feel like I owed you for it." She flinched. I stepped closer. "I didn't come to you at 22 begging to carry your problems. To cover your debts. To save Vanessa over and over while you enabled her. To sacrifice my own mental health, my relationships, my whole life, just so you wouldn't have to face reality." She said nothing. "So you want help? Call a social worker. Call a credit counselor. Call the system you said people like us were too proud to rely on. I'm not your bailout anymore." I walked back to my office without checking if she followed. But it wasn't over. A week later, I got a thick envelope from the bank. Inside was a fraud alert. Someone tried to open an $80,000 business loan using my name, social security number, and the family fund's tax ID. It didn't go through because I had already closed the account, triggering a fraud warning. The company was called Vanessa Grace Recovery Services LLC. It wasn't real, no license, no tax record. The application had a fake signature that looked exactly like mine. I called the bank. The fraud department read the documents and said, "Sir, it looks like someone close to you tried to pretend to be your financial partner. If you hadn't closed that account, this could have gone unnoticed." They didn't just use me, they tried to make me responsible for their debts without my knowledge. Suddenly it all made sense. Vanessa needed space. My parents encouraged it. The quiet, the exclusion, the polite exile, none of it was accidental. It was a setup. Remove his access quietly. Keep his name on the account. Take the money. Disappear. Let the bank come after him if things went south. They didn't just want my help. They wanted to pin the blame on me. When that failed, they turned me into the villain of their own failed theft. I spent the weekend filing reports with the bank, the police, and the tax office. I handed over the fake papers and wrote an affidavit. I even sent them old texts where Vanessa talked about starting a non-profit in my name. It took hours, but every second felt like therapy. That night, Vanessa called me from a new number, crying. "I get it now," she said. She didn't mention the loan or the forgery, just how sad she was, how hard things were, and how we were still family. I asked one question. "Did you know about the loan application?" Silence. Then the call ended. I blocked the number. That was when things really changed. Not them, me. I started sleeping better. I stopped checking my bank app every night, afraid they were stealing again. I went out with friends without worrying about the bill. Then Uncle Henry called. The family outcast, labeled unstable after cutting ties years ago. He found me on LinkedIn. "Heard what you did," he said. "Heard about the fund and the loan." I didn't ask how he knew. Henry always knew more than he said. "You're not the first they drained," he said. "Just the first who turned off the tap." That's when I realized this wasn't just about me. It was generational. A long line of people groomed to serve silently and save everyone else while drowning in denial. They made me the bad guy for quitting. Let me tell you something about heroes. Most of them die broke and tired, while everyone applauds at their funerals. But not me. 2 months later, I moved to a new city. New job. Better team. More money. No forwarding address. One day, alone in my empty apartment, just as the furniture was arriving, I got a Facebook message from Eric, Vanessa's ex. I wasn't expecting it. He wrote, "Thanks for helping her, even when she didn't deserve it. I wasn't the only thing she needed saving from." That stopped me. Not because I wanted praise, but because it was the first time anyone in that circle admitted the truth. I'd been protecting them from themselves, until I walked away. And when I did, the silence that followed wasn't regret. It was freedom. Almost a year has passed since I closed that fund, left the chat, and dealt with 89 missed calls at 3 in the morning. Since the fake business loan and the attempt to frame me for $80,000 in made-up recovery services. I used to worry about how empty I'd feel after leaving, about shame creeping in late at night, whispering, "They're your family. Maybe you overreacted. Maybe you could have saved them." But what I feel now? Peace. Not the kind you fake at Sunday dinner while holding back tears. Real peace. Where my phone doesn't ring with dread. Where my money is mine. Where my boundaries are respected. Where I don't apologize for being free. They tried to pull me back, of course. Mom sent an email on Christmas Eve, saying the tree looked emptier this year, attaching a photo of her and Dad smiling awkwardly in the living room. Vanessa sent a long email on her birthday in March, talking about recovering her authority and casually asking for help with rent. I didn't answer either one. I still check my credit every month. No surprises. No strange charges. The alerts I set up after the forgery never went off, because now I control my life and protect it the same way I once protected theirs. But here's the unexpected part: others reached out too. Cousins I hadn't talked to in years. Coworkers I barely knew. Even a stranger on Reddit who saw my comment on a finance post and messaged me, saying, "I think this happened to me too." Turns out, there are a lot of us, the strong ones, the reliable ones. We're the ones who pay the rent, clean up the messes, hide the panic, and carry the weight, even when told we're cold. And when we finally ask for something in return, the family vault slams shut. Until one day, we figure out how to slam the door ourselves. Leaving my family was the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than watching Vanessa relapse. Harder than taking Dad off my emergency contact list. Harder than staying silent while they called me selfish, bitter, and cruel. But it was also the most important thing I've ever done. Because staying would have been like slowly killing myself for their comfort. The final proof came just a few weeks ago. I was walking home from a late meeting down the same street I've walked dozens of times. Aunt Evelyn was sitting outside the corner bakery, scarf, pearls, same smug look. She saw me, and we waved like old friends. I almost kept walking but stopped. She looked me up and down. "You look well," she said. "I do. There's a drumbeat," she asked, surprisingly not cynical. "Would you ever set something up again, for emergencies?" I laughed, low, deep, real laughter, then said, "I did. It's called my future." I walked away. I don't know if they'll ever understand what they lost or why I had to leave. Maybe they'll rewrite the story, say I was greedy, unstable, ungrateful. Maybe Vanessa will turn this into a podcast about toxic siblings. I don't care. The truth is simple. I'm not the villain in their story. I'm the one who finally left it. And in doing that, I gave myself something no one else ever could. Unconditional freedom.